Hi everyone, welcome back to a new tutorial. In this tutorial I am going to paint something for a patron. Wayne, if you're watching, this is for you. Wayne wanted me to paint this castle for a long time. I've been so busy over the Christmas that I just completely forgot, Wayne. I do apologise, but I'm going to paint it this week for you. It's a lovely castle up high. I'm not exactly sure where it is, again I'll have to double check, but he wanted me to paint this castle for him to show him how to approach a scene like this. So a kind of a rundown castle. Alright, I hope you don't mind. I hope you're all keeping very, very safe. Just so you know as well, I turned off my Facebook page just for a little while because I have so much going on in my life at the moment that I just need to kind of put it to one side just for a little while so I can concentrate on other stuff in my life, and I want to kind of concentrate more on getting really, really good tutorials. So I have a lot more time now to spend on going out and about and doing outside tutorials. As soon as the weather picks up, obviously, because it's very wet and damp over here at the moment in Ireland. So as soon as it kind of starts to dry a little bit, I'm going to go out more and do a lot more outdoor tutorials because I've been wanting to do it for so long. But you know, I just didn't have the time because I was doing so much. So I hope you don't mind, everyone. If you're following me on Facebook, I will be back eventually, don't worry. But just email me if you have any questions. Just keep watching my YouTube tutorials. I will be updating my tutorials uploading my tutorials every week as normal. And the same with Patreon. So that won't change. They'll get better and better, okay? I hope you don't mind. You know, sometimes we have to make choices. You know, we have to decide what's best, you know what I mean? What's more important in life, you know? And just for a little while. I've a lot more, you know, I have a lot of stuff to concentrate on, that's all. Look, anyway, I wanted to show you something I'm working on here. I'm converting this easel into a field easel. Now, this was just a regular box, okay? Just a simple, cheap, regular box. I had this for a number of years. It was my daughter's, actually, but she doesn't use it, so I took the legs off in a regular, cheap easel, and I just bolted them through the sides of the box. Isn't that handy? And I've done the same with that one at the back. Now, the only problem is, I need to machine the box just around these legs, just to with a router, just slightly, so that they sit into the box just a little bit to hold them in place. Because even when you tighten these, it's still, you know, it moves around a bit. But that's it. I thought it would be a nice little project, and I can start doing outdoor tutorials then, at least. It was just a regular cheap easel. I gave it a little bit of stain, a nice wood stain, and the box as well, just to darken it a bit. But I think that's nice. And it'll suit me perfectly for an outdoor tutorial, I think. This is wonderful snow scene, actually. I'm very happy with this. I painted this for my patrons. It's over there on Patreon if you want to go and take a look. A wonderful snow scene on creating texture and, you know, that lovely kind of rough road look with kind of a frosty effect on the road. A nice simple scene, but just very effective, I think. And you can see there's a carrot as well. And a bird. You can't forget the bird, isn't that right? So let me turn the camera again. I'm going to paint my tutorial in the kitchen this week because it's quite damp and cold in the studio here. So I've everything set up in the kitchen. So let's go and have a look and see what we're going to paint. Okay, don't go anywhere. Okay, here we go. Now, Wayne, I have a 16 by 12 canvas. I primed this once just with a very thin coat of a water-based primer, a white undercoat. Then I gave it a very light sand with some very fine sandpaper. That makes it just so it's not as dry as regular canvas, and it should not soak the paint in too much, but I don't want it overly primed. Do you know what I mean? I don't want the paint to be very slippery and very wet. So just one coat of primer. If you have a good canvas, you don't need to prime it really, okay? Just so you know. I like to prime my canvases, that's all. Now, there's the photograph. Isn't that lovely? A lovely castle. And let's see now if we can try and simplify this for Wayne and make a nice tutorial out of it as well. If anything, you might learn how to paint a little castle or paint stone, that kind of thing. And I'm thinking, now this was kind of zoomed right back, but I zoomed in on this castle because I love the castle itself. So I'm going to put a quick sketch now, a very, very quick sketch, just very loosely, look, down like that, and across, and down like that, okay? And my idea is to create a lovely kind of a mist just towards the base of the castle here. So it's very misty, and we have some mist up in the hills as well over in the distance. Now, let me get the castle in first. I'm just going to do a very quick, very rough sketch just at the beginning. And I am kind of, I suppose, zooming in slightly on the castle. I may kind of go a little bit further closer to the castle, if you know what I mean, because I want the focus to be on the castle. Now, we have a little bit of a railing there, okay? Like that. And so you can see I'm just being very loose with all of this. You know, you don't have to make it complicated. And just make it very loose. It comes out at the bottom like that. Now the top kind of comes up and it goes over like that. And I'm kind of looking now at the shaded areas up here. So you can see this area here is in shade, okay? And it's come across like that and goes up a bit. And then we have the piece that's in light, like this. And this is all stone now, so everything is going to be kind of jagged. And again, you see, I will probably end up painting over most of these lines anyway when I'm painting the sky. So look, you don't have to go to a huge amount of trouble with this, all right? Honestly, you don't have to. I'm just kind of getting a very rough kind of idea of what we're painting just on the canvas here, okay? As I said, most of this will be covered. A little window there and a little window there. And you know, that's it. Now, we have some water off in the distance. So I'm going to put that across like that. Then imagine that line going through without touching the canvas, and then bring it back down again, like so. Then we have a lovely hill. I'm going to go just behind the castle with this hill, like that, and I'm creating some mist up here as well. So you can see now I've kind of zoomed in just primarily on the castle. It may be a little bit wide, but we can adjust it as we're going. Okay, now we have some lovely kind of walls going along like this. We have one kind of coming up like that. And you see, the thing with these is a lot of this is going to be in the mist. So you might see little bits of it poking through here and there. I'm putting a line here where I know the shadow of the grass is. So that's the dark side. And that's it. Let's start painting. And let's see if we can give this nice finish for Trevor. Or not for Trevor, for Wayne, my apologies. So I'm going to start with a large stubby brush. Now let me tell you what colours I have. I have titanium white, Naples yellow, cadmium yellow pale. People get confused with cadmium yellows. I have a couple of yellows. I have cadmium yellow pale, cadmium yellow hue, cadmium yellow deep. This one is cadmium yellow pale, okay? I have a little burnt sienna, some burnt umber, a little phaylo blue, now I might not need cadmium red, but I have it there just in case. And a little crimson. I forgot one colour. A very important colour. Lamp black, okay? Any kind of black will do, really. Black is black as far as I can tell with painting. It's just for some really dark colours. There are slight differences between some of between the blacks, but it's hardly noticeable really. Now, I'm going to dampen my brush, okay? Dip it in my turpentine. I have turpentine here with a little drop of linseed oil. I'm just going to dry it just to excess, so it's wet but it's not soaking wet, okay? I'm going to take, now for the sky I'm going neutral, so I'm going to take some titanium white to begin with, and I'm going to take a hint of phthalo blue, and I'm going to take a hint of black. As I said, I want to keep the sky very neutral, very kind of grey, because I think that will complement the green lovely. So I'm not using too much blue in my mixes today, okay? Not too much, just a little. I'm going for a kind of a greeny, bluey kind of a sky. Not a greeny blue, a bluey grey kind of a sky, my apologies. I'm getting all mixed up here with my words. A grey blue kind of a sky, all right? Just put this in. It's quite wet, you can see, because I like to work in thin layers. And what that means is, when I go to put extra paint on this in a moment, you know, it's not going to be slipping and sliding all over the place. The paint will stay where I want it to stay. So I use very thin layers. So I'm just adding a little bit more black into this, okay? And then I'm going to start adding a lot of white as it comes down. Now when you pick up lots of titanium white like this, it gets very thick, doesn't it? So I'm going to just take a tiny amount of thinners with the corner of my brush each time as I go, just to thin it ever so slightly, alright? Because you can very easily add too much turpentine in, and it's very difficult then to get back to the colour you want. You have to add lots and lots of paint in. So that's why I add tiny amounts of turpentine as I go, okay? More white, a tiny amount of turpentine again, just to thin it. And we go back over here and go up into our sky. So my goal really today is to show Wayne how we can kind of simplify this scene. I know it looks very complicated, it looks like there's a lot going on. What I say to people is try and focus on one section at a time and try to ignore everything else. So I'm putting this out of my head completely. I'm just focusing on my sky. Okay, so there we go. Now I'm going to create like just a nice, it's kind of a soft sky, but there's a bit of texture in the sky as well. You know what I mean? Like for instance, let me see. Let me just dip my brush in turpentine, okay, and give it a good wipe like that. Look, that's how I clean my brushes when I'm changing colours, okay? I dip it right in for a second, I soak it in turpentine, and then I let the tissue soak off the colour, okay? And you can see it's relatively clean then. Let's go into some white, and let me just flick a little bit of white across off in the distance here and there. Very, very loose. Dab it around here and there, look, to create some cloud. Just to create a little bit of an impression of kind of a rough sky off there, off in the distance. Some movement, that's what we're going for, movement. They're the words I'm looking for, movement in the sky. So let's just create a little bit of movement off there. I'm just being very, very loose with all of this, okay? There. Now, a nice simple sky. You could even soften this in a bit more if you like. A little bit more. Because I want the emphasis to be on the castle, you see. Now let's go and do this hill. So I'm going to dampen my brush ever so slightly again. And I'm going to take some black. You can see I only take tiny amounts of colour when I'm going. A little bit of black. So it's a greeny blue, kind of a dark greeny blue, isn't it? Let's go for some phaylo blue and a little cadmium yellow pale. Let me just take a look at that. Okay, now I'll take a little hint more blue because I want to push this off into the distance, okay? I want this to go right off into the distance, so a little bit more blue and a hint of white. I'll do this colour first. Okay, for a distant kind of a colour. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to kind of almost soften this up into the sky, look. So I'm going to take more white, and as it comes up, let's take me more white and a little bit more blue. So I'm going more whitey blue this time now, and I'm going to kind of soften it right up into the sky, look. And then you can even soften it in with your finger. Just run your finger along that line ever so slightly, look. Now it's kind of softened the way up into the sky. And something else I wanted to do now was to create some detail in that. Just a little bit of detail off in the distance in that hill. So I'm taking a kind of a flat brush, but it's not completely flat, okay? It's kind of slightly worn out, if you know what I mean. So I'm going to take, let's try this one here, look. Let's take a dry brush. I'm going to go with some black, some blue, a little bit of brown, tiny bit of brown. Now these are very dry colours, okay? And a little tiny bit of yellow. And let me get some more black in this. Let me just try this. What I'm going to do is dab like this to create the impression of just trees and all that kind of stuff off in the distance, okay? Now this is just the very early stages of this. Let's just a little bit more brown. Because even though it's so far away, you can still kind of see the trees going up into the mist, up into the sky, because it's a very, very low mist. So let's just let that fade off up there. And I'll show you what I'm going to do then in just a moment. I'm going to start strengthening the colours towards the bottom. So let's take some burnt umber, some black and some yellow. Okay, cadmium yellow. And a hint of blue, I think. I don't want it too warm towards the bottom. I'm going to just sort of soften some of this up. Dab, 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 dab with the brush. The brush just kind of gives a very rough edge, very rough kind of effects. So you can tell that it's kind of trees and stuff like that, but without going into too much detail. Does that make sense? And I make it nice and dark then just along the bottom, alright? So that's a nice simple suggestion there now of a hill off in the distance. And the next step I'm going to do is I'm going to take my dry brush, again a different dry brush, and just with a little white, okay, tiny bit of white on that, I'm going to create a little bit of mist up in the top of that, look. Soften a bit of mist in through that. Okay, that gives it a nice misty effect. And there we go. I think that's all we need to do. That's all we need to do with that. Let's move on to our water. And I want to keep the water bright because this nice dark castle is in front. Alright? So, let's take some white. A little bit of turpentine in this. A little hint of blue. And a little hint of black, okay? It's a very light, again, like the sky colour. A very light, bluey kind of grey colour. Now we have a little bit of a problem, right? Because the sky is bright. So I'm going to darken it just on this side. Let me take a hint of phaylo blue. And a hint more of the black. I'm going to darken it here. Okay. But I'm going to lighten it over on this side. Like so. So you can see we have light against dark and dark against light, but you see it's not noticeable in the painting. Now I have a lot of kind of green colour on my brush, don't I? I'm going to just give my brush a good clean, and I need to get more titanium white on my palette here. Okay, there we go. And let me get some white, little blue. And make this nice and a nice rich kind of a blue down here. I'll take a hint of cadmium red, I think, as well. Some more white. So I'll clean that. Still a bit rich for me. Take a bit more white. Let's just get more into the kind of bluey colours. Alright. There we go. And I'll soften this one up here like that. Okay, so we have that now. What we could do is, with a small detail brush, perhaps add a little bit of detail in the water. Just kind of some little flicks of dark going through, because it is really, really bright, isn't it? So let's just darken some of our water here and there. Let's take a very pointy brush with lots of turpentine, some blue and some black, a little tiny hint of red, not too much. Okay, nice dark colour like that. And let's just give it some movement, okay? I'm just barely touching the canvas now. I'm just letting the canvas just drag that paint across here and there. And I'm letting the brush just kind of dance around on the canvas, okay? Just left and right, left and right. And you don't have to do this if you don't want. You can use a palette knife if that's easier for you. And I'm kind of dragging the flat of the brush then across as it goes off, just to kind of almost soften it in. You see? Now it just gives a little bit of movement in the water, doesn't it? And a little bit of darkness as well. Let's do the same over on this side. Rather than just having it a very bright colour, it needs a bit of depth, doesn't it? Now let's just leave it go off into the distance there, and I may even darken it a little bit more. Okay, let's try a little bit more blue, a little bit more red, a little hint of black. A little bit darker. It's just because I don't want it just to be a kind of a flat, pale, dull, flat kind of pale colour. I just want to have a little bit of movement in the water as well. Because even though we are on the shoreline, it's still a bit of a distance away, the water. So I just want to give that impression that it's far away, but there's still a bit of movement in it. Okay? Now, yeah, I think we'll go with that. I think we'll just go with that for now. And we can come back to it. The main part is this castle. Okay? Let's crack on and do the castle. I'm going to take another brush. Let me take a nice little flat brush, just kind of a flat brush. I'll take another smaller one, and we have our detail brush as well. Now, I'll start with the dark side of the castle, okay? So, well, most of the castle is in darkness really. It's just a little bit of that's on the light. So let's mix an edge colour for this now. I can see a little bit of burnt umber. Now, a little tiny drop of turpentine. Some burnt umber, I can see a little bit of crimson because it's kind of a pinky browny kind of a shadowy colour. Take a hint of black, and then I'm going to take a hint of Naples yellow into that. I'll take a bit more pink and a little bit more black. So I have a very kind of a pinky brown kind of a colour here now so far. I might add a little bit of white to that with a tiny amount of blue. I'll take some blue from this here, look, okay? So now we have, it's a kind of a dull, browny grey kind of a colour. Take a little bit more white into that, and perhaps a bit more blue. So let's just fill in all this dark area with this lovely colour. Alright, so let's just go down like that. And it doesn't have to be completely straight. Look, you can give it a bit of a wiggle if you want. It's entirely up to you. Bring this right down, fill this in. You can go over all your windows and stuff as well, okay? Now, I need to mix more, so let's start from the start and I'll show you how I mix this colour. Let's just make it simple. Let's take a little bit of black, a little touch of phaylo blue, a little touch of crimson. Oh, that's too much crimson now. So if you find you have too much crimson in your mix, just take a bit more blue. And let's take a bit more white. And I've added a tiny amount of burnt umber as well. It's almost like a browny kind of a plummy colour. It's quite lovely actually. Now I want to make the castle slightly taller, so I'm going to go down into the grass line just a little bit more, okay? And let's go across here. Give this all a wiggle because this is that very jagged edge where the front of the castle is. So it's jagged and it goes into a brighter colour. And then this is all in shadow here. I'm going to leave a little bit there, just for some bright. Okay. I'll take a touch more Naples yellow in this, just to warm it ever so slightly. Okay, now I'm going to do this line here. Okay, let's go down like that. And then block all that in. I'll take a hint more black, because this shadow is a bit darker up here. It goes up to a darker shadow. Now, would you like me to zoom in on this so you can see me painting the castle, or do you want me to show you mixing it? You see, I don't know if you have a clear view of this. I think I'll zoom in on the castle just slightly. I think you might like to see the castle in detail. That's a bit better, isn't it? I can explain to you my colours as I'm going anyway, alright? I'll do my best. So that browny kind of a soft browny shadowy kind of a colour, like that. Okay, now I'm going to switch brushes and start creating little effects of stone. Alright, now just to give you an impression that it's an actual stone building, I'm going to take my pointy brush. I'm just going to take a hint of black and a hint of blue and a hint of crimson, okay? I'm going to go for this very dark, blacky, bluey kind of a colour, alright? And under here, we have a little bit of a dark colouring there, don't we? Bring that up like that. And what I want to do then is, from the bottom up, look, I'm going to just, with the side of the brush, I'm going to start dabbing, dab, 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 alright? Sideways, just on the flat of the brush. Just little dabs, look, and that's giving the impression of stonework on the building. I go down here, do a little bit down here. And you can use this technique for big castles, small castles. It's the same, I use the same technique if I'm painting an old cottage or something like that, an old stone cottage. I'll do the very same effect. Because this is only the beginning, okay? I'll be putting lights, and the beauty of this kind of technique is you can warm the colours slightly as you go, or you can make them slightly cooler. It's completely up to yourself, depending on what kind of mood you want on the stone, what kind of colouring you want. So it's very easy to do. It's just with a small brush, dabbing, dab, 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 dab. You see, all the way across. And you don't have to do every single part. For instance, I'm going to take a bit of blue, a little bit of white, and some crimson, okay? And I'm going to go, it's a very kind of pinky, shadowy colour. I'm going to go with this pinky, shadowy colour, just here and there, look. In fact, I need a bit more blue in this. Pardon me. A bit of blue and a little bit of white as well. So, although it's a dark colour in shadow, I can still put this light mauvey kind of a tone here and there as well, just to suggest the light hitting the shadow side of the building. Does that make a bit of sense to you? It's you know, you can see there's a little bit of light kind of hitting the shadowed area as well. Now, you can, if you like, then start adding some warmer colours. So I'm taking a little bit of burnt sienna and a little bit of black. So I've a more warm kind of a brown colour, and I'm going to start adding a little bit of that in. If you feel it's getting a bit too cold, look, you can just pop a little bit of that in here and there. A little bit over here. And that will just kind of warm the colour then slightly. Okay? Now you can do the same over on this side. Just pop a bit in here and there. I'll take some of that shadowy colour, pop some of that in. Let's go with some of that kind of pinky colour. Pop a little bit of that in here and there. And then I'll go slightly darker with some burnt umber and black. I go slightly darker in here. I want to go nice and dark in by this side so that this lovely bright colour will really show afterwards. Now, you can, if you want, just dab that and kind of drag it around so that everything just kind of merges together. You see what I mean? Now, up around the top, let's get up around the top done. I'm going to go first with some black and some burnt umber up around there and get some nice rich darks in first, alright? So around here, look, just pop a little bit of that colour in. And up around here, we have a lot of dark colour. I'm not actually painting individual rocks and all that kind of stuff. I'm just kind of moving the brush around, scraping it around, and that will give you the impression of just a very kind of dark area. Does that make sense? I'll take some phthalo blue and black, just a tiny bit now, you see, only just subtle changes. And I'm going to come down the front here to suggest a very broken kind of a wall. Okay, you can see that. And I'll take some of that, and it's a very dry kind of brushwork that I'm doing. A bit there. And I'll take a bit of black on its own actually, and I want to put this very dark line in just along there, you see, just dab it along. Nice and simple. Right. That's not bad now so far, is it? I'm going to darken it. There's a piece down here that I want to darken. And I also want to darken down around this side down here. I want to get that nice and dark. And the reason being, you see, I'm kind of thinking one step ahead now. And the reason I'm doing this is this nice bright green grass. I want there to be a lovely contrast between the bright yellowy green colour of the grass and the very dark shadowy colour of this castle. So I want a lovely kind of separation just at the bottom, and that's what really kind of stands out in the painting, separating these colours with very strong colours. Okay, now, so we're kind of coming along nicely. You see, I'm just kind of dancing around. Now I have a couple of windows. Let's start with the lighter colours, and I'm going to move to a slightly bigger round brush for this. Just let me find it. There we go. A slightly bigger round, and I'm going to get a nice bright mix down for this. Let's try some Naples yellow, a little hint of, let me see, I'm thinking a little hint of burnt umber. I'm not too sure. Let's take some white. A little more burnt umber, tiny bit perhaps. Perhaps a hint of sienna. So a nice sunlit stone kind of a colour, okay? Let me just have a look at this now. So let's just fill in all this nice bright section. So wherever you see the brights, just pop them in. You don't have to be too fussy now with this. Okay, and we have a nice one here. And you see, what I'm doing then is you can even soften it into some of the darks. So my brush is picking up some of those darks, and you can soften it in just here and there, look, like that. And you can even use that colour to paint in the shadows, okay? You see? So that colour was already on my brush, so I'm just using it to paint in the shadow side of these. Isn't that lovely? Now, clean my brush, pick up some more of that colour, and I go down the front of this. And even if it picks up some of the darker colour, that's fine, that's completely fine. That really kind of helps to make it more natural. Alright, so if I'm picking up some of that brown, that just helps give it a more natural feeling. Now I'm going to switch to a smaller brush, my small pointy brush, and I'm taking some Naples yellow with white. And I'm just going to go along here. And I'm basically just dabbing here and there. Just trying to give the effect of the wall coming down. Like that. I'll take some more of that brighter colour. Put a little bit of a window there. I want to put a nice dark line in between this. Now I'm just going to use, while I have this brush, I'm going to pop a little bit of light on to this wall here, because that will catch some light as well. Another bit on your brush, just a little dab here and there. Because some parts will still catch the light, won't they? Like up here, for instance, and back here. I'll take some white on its own, and I'm going to just pop a little bit of white along the front of this one, just to act as a kind of almost separating the two walls, if you know what I mean. I'll put a little bit here as well. Now let's do the windows. The Naples yellow with white, okay? Very bright colour. And let's simply just pop them in. That's one. And we have another one down here. Two. Okay, I'm going to clean the brush. And I'm going to take some nice dark colour, some nice black. Okay, and I'm just going to give a little bit of a shadow on the top and on the bottom. A little bit there. Just to kind of square it off just a little bit so it doesn't look like it's just something that's sitting there. A little bit of a shadow in there and a little bit there. And then I'll take some black and I'll pop a little bit of a dark line in between that here and there, just to separate the, it's like two walls, isn't it? It's like a cavity between a wall. Just here and there. And then I'll take some black, and I just want to strengthen then some of the shadows. So we have two little bits up there. Just using the tip of the brush, that's all, look. Just a little bit. And catch some more of these up here. Another bit of black. We have an impression of an old kind of doorway in here. Another one down here. And then we have where the railing comes along. Okay, a little bit there. Little bits of black around there, just kind of scraping it along and dabbing it. That's all I'm doing really. But softening it in, you see? Kind of softening it down, just making it very sort of rough. A very rough kind of a feeling. Now, I'm going to take a little hint of white and put a little hint of white just up here and there to suggest some of the bricks. And now I'm going to do my railing, which is just white on its own with the tip of your brush. Let's just go a slight angle. And then just pop in lots of little railings. Okay, nice and simple. You don't have to go too much trouble with all this. I'll get some nice stone work done down here. Let me take some burnt sienna with some white and get a little bit of a lighter shade of stone going on down here. And you could integrate that colour then as it comes up just a little bit, okay? There we are, let that come down. So, that's not bad now, is it? What I want to do is just darken this, almost kind of disappears into the brick, doesn't it? As it comes down, look, there we go, that's better. So it sort of disappears in. All right. Now how is that looking? Let's move on to our grass. Let me zoom back slightly. There we go, and fix this so you can see my palette again. There. Now that's better, isn't it? Let's take our large stubby brush. Give it a quick clean, okay? Let's take some, now for a very bright green, I'm going to take some cadmium yellow pale, a little Naples yellow, and a little touch of black. Now black does give you a very rich green, all right? A nice rich green, but it'll be warm at the same time. It's kind of like an olive green, I think. That's a bit bright. Let's take a bit more black. Okay, let me go with that for now. And I'm going to sort of soften that in to the building. Okay. We have a bit of a tree there on the left hand side, but I don't know if we should put that in because I want to create a lovely mist along the bottom of this. So I think I might leave it out just for now, okay? Now I'm going to go right over these walls. Don't worry, I'll paint in the walls, not to worry. Take a bit of a darker colour. Go along here. Okay. Let me get some more of that mix. A little bit of yellow, a hint of black. Go across there. Let me fill this in. I'm not going to go all the way down, okay, because I want to create a lovely mist down here. I will make a darker black for the shadowy side, so some cadmium yellow, pale, some black, and a hint of blue, okay? Tiniest little hint. And I'm just going to kind of soften that across here and there, where it comes down into the shadows. Okay, now I'll take a slightly smaller brush, a small flat, okay, and I'm going to take some of that nice dark colour. I'm going to get a nice dark shadowy colour now, some black and some blue, and I'm going to pop some of that in here and there. Needs to be darker again, doesn't it? Phaylo blue and black, and I'm going to pop some of that in. So it's really emphasising the shadow in the painting then, all right? Come along like this. Let's try some burnt umber, some black, and some phaylo blue. That'll warm the shadow just slightly. And then I'm going to come over here, pop a little bit of shadow in here and there on this side. So there could be a shadow from a tree or something like that. Okay. Now the next thing I want to do is pop in a little bit of light colour where that is turning. So let me show you what I mean by that. I'm going to create a nice bright green. Some cadmium yellow, a little hint of white, and a little hint of this green we have mixed, okay? So it's a very bright colour. And let me just see now. So I want to just kind of indicate where it's getting bright suddenly, where the hill of the grass is kind of turning and coming over into the light. Okay, does that make sense? Can you see what I mean? And you can even bring it further across if you want. Even down at the bottom. Let's go further in. And then what I'm going to do is make it nice and bright, just on the right hand side, really bright. So the sun is really catching it over here. A bit more cadmium yellow. That will give it a nice, really bright green look. I'm pulling it downwards then like this to create the effect of the hill falling down. Okay, no, that's okay just for now. Let's get some of these little walls done. Again, I'm going to go back to my greys. Let's get some nice browny kind of dark grey colour there. I start with the darker one. So I start with the darker colour, start putting the darker colour in. Then it kind of comes down like this, okay? Then we have one that kind of comes up like that, doesn't it? Oh, again, start with the darker shade, like that. And then we have another one. Let's take some burnt umber black, kind of coming up like that. A bit of wall up around here as well. Let's just suggest a little touch of that. And this will be kind of quite dark back here. So I'm going to just make it nice and dark. Take some black, some blue. And look, I'm just kind of dabbing it very loosely. That's all. And then it's going to get nice and dark again on the bottom here. And then I'm going to kind of soften that in. You see, I'm just kind of dabbing the side of my brush, softening it up. And we have the same on this side here. It's going to be kind of in shadow quite a lot. Okay, like that. Now I'm going to clean my brush and go back to my small pointy brush. I'm looking at the time on my clock here. I'm not too bad, I have a good bit of time left. Let's get some nice bright colour on this stone wall. Just a nice bright whitey colour. Look, a little bit of Naples yellow. And I'm just going to dab. Dab, 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 dab. So I'm starting on the kind of light hand side and I'm softening it back in then to the dark, alright? And just kind of merging them together very gently. Okay, try it. Let's go over to this one here. See, just using the side of the brush, just kind of dab it along, let it soften down into the dark. Try that again. Up here, it's really bright, really catches the sunlight up here. This one does. And a little bit over here. Now, one thing I want to do is just to create a little bit of dark behind the wall on the grass. Okay, like so. And I'm going to kind of drag it outwards and almost soften it in, you see that? Creating the shadow on the grass. So I'll do the same with this one. This one will almost disappear into the dark, you see? I'll pull it along, and down here, again, I'm going to soften it in slightly. I'll do the same with this one. Just side to side, soften it in ever so slightly. And then I'm going to put a very bright colour just along here, okay? Where the sun is really catching that light. And a little bit up here. It's a nice light, isn't it? I have a little bit showing over here. Now, how's that? I'll soften this together with my finger here, and I'm then going to create some lovely mist. I was saying something about mist. I want to create a lovely kind of little mist just at the bottom. I'm going to take a little bit of white and a little bit of the light green, look. A very whitey green. I'm going to go along here with this, around in circles. Can you see this okay? You can. And I'm going to soften it up into those colours, look. Very gently, using the tip of the brush only. Just very, very softly. Okay, when you get to the wall, just go over the wall very gently, look, and pull the colours around. I just think it'll be a nice finish for the painting. Creating a nice misty effect. Go into your darks, round in circles again, round and round and round. Pull them down and across, look. Merge everything together nice and softly. Get very soft then just up at the tip, where you want to soften it out. Isn't that lovely? Look at that. So we have this lovely, soft, misty effect by the castle. I think this is lovely. Now I'm very happy with this. Go right up here, look. I'm hardly touching the canvas really. Only just slightly. Look at that. Isn't that lovely? A lovely mist at the base of the castle. There's one thing for me left to do now, and that is I have to put a bird in somewhere. I must put a bird in somewhere. Let's go up here, okay? A little bird. And with that, my friends, I mean, you know, you can keep going with this, Wayne, if you like. I think I've achieved what I wanted to achieve with this. But you can keep adding little touches to this if you wish. For example, look, I want to add a hint of very bright sunlight coming through the window. So a little bit of Naples yellow. Okay, that just gives you that brightness. Add a touch here and there to some of the stones. If you want to really just give it more of a sunlit kind of a colour. And I feel I might want to strengthen some of this, just with a small pointy brush. Okay, like so. You could add another little bit of white up here. You want to make that slightly brighter on top, and again up on this side up here. So there's so much you can do. I want to darken actually just a little some of this. It's a little bit, I think, a little bit bright still. Okay, I think that's a bit better. So that's it, my friends. I'm going to strengthen some of this, so you can kind of go along now like this if you wish, and just add little touches if you want to just kind of darken some parts. Remember, very dark shadows will really help. Okay, so add lots of little touches of black here and there. And I'm fairly happy with that. I think that's a success. I'll add a little bit of light over here. So just again, where the sun is catching some of this wall. And you know, that's basically it, my friends. And you just add a little bit more light to some of the wall here, and perhaps a little bit to that side over there, just to indicate the sunlight is really catching on the tip of that wall. And that's it. That's all you need to do. Let me zoom in and show you this lovely painting. Look at this. Just a nice simple impression of a castle. I hope that's alright, Wayne. I hope you enjoy that. Nice simple sky, nice simple hill off in the distance, okay? And just kind of rub it into the sky with your finger. You see? Just give it that lovely misty effect. We zoom right into the castle here to show you. Isn't that lovely? Plenty of lights and plenty of darks, you see? Okay, and there we are. I hope you've enjoyed that, my friends. Let me zoom right back here now, and there we are. I'll just loosen this thing here just a little. Job done. Thank you so much for watching. So there we are now. Nice simple tutorial, very effective. You can use this and put this technique into houses, buildings, all that kind of stuff, rocks. So have a bit of fun with that. Let me know what you think. I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you so much for watching. Please do subscribe. Just fix this. Check out my Patreon channel if you want to go and see. There's lots more tutorials on Patreon if you want to support me. Okay, I really appreciate that. That's it, I think, for now. That's it for this week. Wayne, let me know what you think about this. And I have a couple of nice ones coming up now in the next couple of weeks. Real proper nice landscapes. Thank you so much. Happy painting. Give that a try. Let me know what you think. And again, thank you all so much. And God bless. Happy painting, everyone.